Buddies, it's that time. I'd like to welcome you all back from what hopefully was a nice, restful, relaxing vacation. Had some nice weather. Hopefully you got outside a little bit, enjoyed some of that. Today we're going to be doing something I've been really excited about. I actually saved this one purposely for today, for the day after you come back, and maybe you need something that's going to be interesting for you and fun to do. I would say on top of like the eye drawing, which is really cool and people really got into that and did a nice job. This is like the other thing that people really like drawing. And this lesson is the thing that, if you're kind of turning into one of those artsy kids, this is the thing that you're going to be doing all the time. This is going to make you so much better. This is really great practice, and this is something you literally can do at any point in time. The subject we're drawing is something that we just have on us all the time, and you can change the subject in any way you see fit. We're going to do it in a specific way today, but here's what we're drawing. Human hand. Okay, this is really cool, nice little challenge. I'm going to try to show you my my example, what I'm looking at. Obviously it's my hand, throughout the entirety of this process. I'm going to try to keep my hand here. It's going to be tough, but you're going to do the same thing. You're going to keep your hand in the same position, make sure you're not moving it. We're going to do a fist, okay? And you notice I'm not going like this. The fist has, as much as you can, the thumb should cross over a portion of these fingers too, okay? It helps break up the drawing just a little bit. And we're all going to start with the same pose. It's going to look like this. And we're going to start with the same lines. Shouldn't come as a surprise. I've tried to break this down to steps, and you're going to start with 3 lines once again. So get your hand in a comfortable position, something that you think you can hold for at least as long as it's going to take you to finish that drawing. And make sure it's not super tight, because that's going to start hurting you and you're going to wind up moving that that pose. So get something that's going to be something that won't change, okay? During this process, you're going to probably hear my cats meowing in the background. My cat Dave, he wants to go outside. We have 2 other cats we've sort of adopted. They were like neighborhood cats, and they're outside right now because it's kind of nice out. So he's just going to be probably screaming in the background because he wants to go out. But I'm busy. I'm showing you guys this. I'll take him out after. So here's where we're starting. We're starting with this line. Should look somewhat straight, but you should at least definitely see what that shape looks like depending on where your thumb is positioned. It might have a curve, or it might be really nice and straight. And then we're doing this line, and then we're doing this line. Okay, let's see what that looks like. And I'm looking at it from this angle, so it might look a little different when I do it, but here's where I want you to start. Just get a direction and a length for that, okay? Because we're going to compare that to everything else we do. And then I also want us to consider this distance here. However long you made that, try to compare that to this. From my angle, it looks like this is just a little bit longer than this. So this isn't officially one of the 3 lines we're starting with, but it's pretty important to consider. And then this one is just this segment from here to here before your hand sort of changes direction and curves around a little bit. And consider how long that is by comparison. On me, it's not as long. Hopefully you can see those. I can make those darker. And right now you're seeing that these are just straight lines. We're going to start with that just because we care about the sizes of these lines, how far they go. We care about that more than like the exact shape of it. And then this one, you want to think about, okay, like how far from this distance to, you know, from here to here, where does this line kind of start? And I would say it's starting like here-ish, and it kind of comes like almost straight up, about the same height as that. So it looks pretty good. Once we have those, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and draw your thumb. Now, this is something you once again have to look at and try to consider how big that should be in comparison to the other things you've already drawn. Hopefully that's dark enough that you can see that. And we're just doing a line drawing today. We're not going to shade this. So kind of get your basic shapes in there. We want to almost look at these as like sections. Okay, you can kind of see there's some shapes that we're creating in there. And when you actually break this into these shapes, it can tell you, if you look at your source image, it can tell you if you're kind of going the right direction. Like for example, I can see that my angle here, which looks kind of thumbish, it's actually not what it's doing. Not on my hand anyway. So this needs to change a little bit that way. I've said it before in other videos. Our teachers make mistakes too. We're just blocking this thing in. We're trying to like notice as many differences and variations and changes as we can, okay? This is where you can now start to block in some subtleties. Little directional changes and things. I'm going to have you continue a little bit with the wrist. Bring that down. I do not know what this music is. I apologize. I just put a random station on, and well, we both got to deal with it, okay? So that looks pretty good. And now what I want us to do, now that we have the thumb on there, and we have this part, which I'm going to kind of call like the meaty part of your hand. Look at that. Like if you had to like grill up a part of your hand, if you were starving and you had to eat something, look at this. Look at that nice meaty section of hand. That needs to be a pretty big size on there, okay? It's actually like, as far as what we've drawn so far, it really should dominate that space. The difference between these on different people might not be as obvious. I'm going to turn my hand a little bit. If I turn that and I'm not like squeezing my hand very tight, that line's not there. If I tighten my hand up, we actually physically have a line in there that's going to break those spaces up, okay? Now what I want us to do is to break up the lines, creating different sizes for different fingers. And we're going to do this before we draw the actual fingers, just to make sure we fit them all in. So a great place to do that is to look at where my thumb crosses over these other fingers. Where do these lines come out of? All right. Now I'm going to say my first one comes out, and you can see there's a bit of a shadow there, but it kind of comes out, so I can turn this for you. No, that shadow's going to stay. Right about here, I think, is where that starts. And the end of the finger is right there. So that's the width of my pointer finger. The next one ends, I would say, probably here on the thumb, kind of close to the tip. And then probably out here, you can see that direction of this finger goes this way. On me, that's just my hand. And then probably here-ish. And we also want to think, where do these come into? They kind of follow that. You want this line eventually to come down through here. and this one comes a little lower, and this one's right next to it. I'm seeing here I may have to come out a little further with that first line that I made. That's okay, we were really just making that line for the length, but I think the angle is probably more extreme. It's going to give us a little bit more room here where that hand, obviously the folded pinky here, that kind of creates like a bit more width here in this other kind of, it's sort of meaty part of the hand. And so I'd say it looks probably like that. All right, now this next part is going to be pretty easy, but this is going to be the thing that really makes it look kind of realistically hand-like, and it's getting the knuckles in there. And that's really gonna, it's gonna kind of complete this drawing. You're gonna see this shouldn't take you a ton of time today, but there is one last thing I want you to do once we complete this step. Please note that these areas here, like what I'm drawing right now, this where you see like the back side of the finger and then the front of the finger, so like here versus here, it's also kind of happening here on that pinky, and that can be kind of tough. And these angles where this part of the finger here goes like into the hand, that can be kind of tricky too. So you really just have to draw what you see. This is what we call foreshortening. Okay, and you're going to hear me talk about that in the next couple days. Foreshortening is when something travels away from you and you have to draw it to make it look like it has that depth, that it goes away from you. So let's take a look at that now. This really changes direction and kind of just hides behind here, and you can see these areas that are shadowed in there. If you don't see inside of there, if it's just so dark that you can't really see what's happening, don't draw it. Don't draw what you don't see, and draw only the lines that you see there. Basically don't make them up. See a tiny bit of the fingernail there. Alright, and so that last thing that I really want you to do, we're not shading this, but I'd like us to create what we call like areas of tension. And during this entire time, you really should have been, I mean, look at the direction that this has. It really changes, and you really should have been focused on getting some of these subtleties in there. If you need more of that stuff, that articulation of those specific details, go ahead and put those in. But also I want you to look at, well, where are some dark things? And we're not shading, but there's some lines that we can kind of intensify. And they're going to be some of these in-between spaces. And we're just kind of darkening them. And it gives the impression that it goes away from us and that it has like some areas in there that really just aren't getting a lot of light. So really just use the line there and darken it or lighten it in areas that you think, like, you know, don't need like a super defined edge. You can kind of like kill those a bit and lighten those where you see fit. I'm seeing that there's a bunch of lines that I kind of forgot over here, so I can put in those details. Go ahead and erase any of these kind of guiding lines that we use that aren't really there on the hand. Any of the lines that you use to section out just to see the shapes a little bit better, you kind of get rid of some of those. I'm going to put a little bit of this line kind of back in there where you see the creases for the wrist. It'll help to give some roundness to that wrist area, and hopefully make this kind of meated section like actually look like it has some curve and some depth to it. Okay, and that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't want us spending a lot of time today on this, but I do want you to do a nice job. Should be a really nice, easy way to ease yourself back in to doing some of these drawings and doing some nice work. Okay. All right, and that's where I'm going to stop it, I think. Okay, that's all I expect from you guys today. Just want these things to look like hands. Mine doesn't look hyper detailed. It's not super time consuming. If I wanted to, I'd go through and put in, you know, some more of this detail and get some of these other things in there, like the, you know, fingernails or anything else that you want to do like that. I'm noticing there's a couple lines, extra lines I could have put in these areas. Just to really sell that idea that those fingernails are kind of like digging in and creating, like, you know, an extra little area fold. Okay, that's really it. So good luck with this one. Make sure you're doing a fist. I would say that's the easiest way to look at the hand because everything's really close together. It's kind of bunched up, so you can really check the sizes and different directional changes pretty accurately with each other. Okay? Best of luck with this, guys. Enjoy.